what happens that allows somebody who goes from relationship to relationship to relationship, really doesn't take time to heal? What's the end game? Do they have a rock bottom moment? Does this build up and build up and build up? Are there multiple outcomes? Or give us the most common outcome based upon the studies and stuff that you've researched.
Yeah. So the most common outcome is something that, referencing rational male, something that was really good work that Rollo observed when he talks about his timeline, the timeline that average girl goes through. Now, understand when we talk about these things to the audience, understand that we talk about these things in generalities. Different women, there's differences when we get down to individuals, but the common thing is that a girl is following the prescription of the socially conditioned prescription, which is to have fun, not take things seriously, and to, you find a boyfriend that he's cute, cool, but then when that doesn't work out, like you mate switch and you go on vacation and get railed out. And, you do all the things that girls tend to do when they're in their late teens, early 20s, and then what ends up happening is they start to recognize their impending doom at when the big 30 starts to come up, and they start to evaluate their life. Their social proof is in the sexual marketplace. So when they're getting less attention than her old self, because she's no longer the hot 21-year-old and she's now the 28-year-old approaching 30, that's when she starts to go, oh, maybe a lot of the things I've been doing isn't working. Because, when she was 19 and 20, she thought, well, I'll have a long-term boyfriend who's super successful and has all the things. And, she had some dream for her life, or maybe she didn't even think about it. But if challenged, she just figured she would be just like these girls in these relationships who has access to a high value guy at 28, 29, not realizing that their behavior doesn't really set them up for any kind of relationship success. And so they get into, start approaching 30, they start to question their previous behavior. That's when they start to go, okay, I need to start evaluating and start doing things differently. Now, what they don't do though, now some girls will do this and they have a good prognosis, but what most do not do is say, let me evaluate myself and my own behavior and take accountability for the shit I've been doing that has been harmful to me. No, most of them will ego protect and have no accountability. What they instead do is just treat it like a strategy where they have to change their strategy in order to get into a long-term relationship. And they think that that resembles, change. That resembles, that they're a better, more experienced version of themselves. Well, they haven't really confronted the old part of them that made the decisions to do what they did to begin with, to understand their own motivations, for better, for worse, and to just have a self insight, and then to, recognize where they were not right, where they went wrong, where maybe they were even a bad person at times to guys in their past. And then to, have accountability for that, meaning like recognize it and then say, okay, here's how I'm going to be in the future. That's not how they're doing it. They're saying, oh, here's a guy. Here's John. This guy named John calls himself MLD. He's super popular on the internet, has $1 million. Let me alter myself. Let me be the good girl. Oh, he's looking, I'm going to stalk his social media. He has a couple of things about, women not being good girls. Oh, I'm going to show up and be the good girl. And so they basically then start to play act this identity of what they think it means, to what they think is going to get them success to get the new guy. With this, they'll do some behaviors that are better than their past. You know what I mean? But they're not really changed in terms of their identity and in terms of their core beliefs, in terms of their awareness of their own behavior. So what happens is they get the guy in the commitment. They're motivated to keep the commitment, where before they weren't even motivated to keep the commitment, right? Now they're motivated. So they're in the relationship. They're thinking, let's say, of marriage or something, right? But now they're bringing all of their toxic ways of handling another person that they got from short-term mating into this long-term scenario. And unfortunately, women are just wired to be more socially aware, and so have better we'll say sales and marketing skills, in a primal level. Like women are, we as guys, we were getting the resources and protecting, which is why we tend to be better at dealing with things, not people, right? And mechanics and processes and steps. Women are innately good at recognizing social cues and recognizing motivations, and then being able to manipulate motivations. And so an untrained guy and an untrained girl get together. That girl has more frame over that guy. She has more sexual experience, more frame. She's manipulating the relationship, not because she's a bad person, but because that's what she thinks she needs to do for success. And next thing they find themselves in this marriage where she's not actually happy because she has no accountability of what her old behavior, what her tendencies are, and no recognition of what really makes her happy. And this guy is just trying to make her happy, but he's being manipulated because she thinks this is what she needs to do to secure a good relationship and to ego protect herself. So, he's simping for her. He's doing this and, oh, whatever you want, honey. And he's whatever he's doing. You know what I'm saying? He's always saying, I'm sorry, and never having a boundary with her. Anytime she doesn't feel good emotionally, like, all the shit that guys will do. And then he gets tired of it. So then he gets complacent, or he acts like an asshole himself at other times, and like all of the things. And she just she manipulates the relationship into a situation that she doesn't like, because if she can manipulate the guy like that, then she ends up with a frame, which means genetically it sends a signal that she is better than he is. And this is why she loses attraction, because she's wired to want to be with a guy who's genetically better than her. That's hypergamy, and this is all the things that happen. You got a divorce 5 to 7 years later, right?
So let's talk about the outcome right now, and not to get too dreadful for the people watching.
Sure. The
But
outcomes are easy, though. This is where we can get optimistic.
no. Yeah, I got you on that. I want you to talk about that right after this question. Quick answer though. What percentage of women do you think are in that path right now? That mate jump, get in a relationship, divorce 5 to 7 years, continues this whole pattern her entire life.
Yeah, probably like 60%, maybe. Probably got about 60% that are that way. And then you probably got 20% that are like worse, like worse than the 60%. And then you have the 20% that are probably good options or choices. That's the way I would look at it. Maybe somewhere between. Now, here's the thing, though, right? Like, there's that 60% that has bad patterns built. A lot of those are going to be capable of building new patterns. They just don't know how, and they don't have the awareness. And this is where the frame of a dominant man, can really be a godsend to a girl like that. Somebody who doesn't really know how to be a good girl and a good partner and has bad patterns built can get into it with a guy with a dominant frame. And if she hasn't destroyed her abilities, because some girls do and some girls don't, and it's really a crapshoot. If she still has capability, she will then be able to actually take accountability and actually make real change. Sure, her motivation for the accountability may be the guy, but that's okay, because that's what frame is. You know what I mean? Her motivation anyway would have been a guy if it was her father who was a good dad and raised her properly. You don't have that anymore, right? And so, or maybe a priest or a minister, or a figure that says, hey, or someone, an uncle that's just a good male role model to be protective over her and to try to instill certain values and that, right? Like, she had that male role model and that masculine leadership earlier. There's a good chance she wouldn't have done a lot of the things and gone down that path at quite so much. It's a lack of having male leadership more than anything else to, kind of present that accountability and value to her that causes this behavior. And then she's kind of lost trying to figure out what she needs to do to be happy when she's 30 years old and getting in that relationship. But if the guy becomes that dominant male figure in her life and she hasn't completely destroyed herself, well, there's a chance. That's where there's some optimism. The thing is, what matters for the listeners is not statistics, but what you need to do to have a good life for yourself.